Now I have a list of data here, that is I have the production details for a particular company. I have around 20 different datas. I need to find out the sum of these datas. For that, we can use the sum function. Let's start. Whenever we are writing a formula, we'll always start it by applying the equal to symbol. If we don't write the equal to symbol, it won't be registered as a formula at all. Let's see without the equal to symbol. SUM bracket, and I close the bracket and I pressed enter. See, it is just a text here. It hasn't registered as a formula. If this needs to be registered as a formula, we need to start writing this with an equal to symbol. Let's clear this and write again. Is equal to sum, SUM. Now you have a list of formulas that start with the letter sum, or the Excel is suggesting you the possible formula that you might be looking for. Now we need SUM sum. You can select it from here or you can click tab as well. After you type in the formula and open the parenthesis, Excel will show you the syntax of what you need to add here. It is showing to put the number 1. Let's put a random number here, 4. Now I want the sum of 4 and 5. Let's put 5. I can put how many ever number I want here. And after that I can close the parenthesis and click enter. As you can see, the answer is 9. 4 plus 5 is equal to 9. But I don't want some random numbers sum, right? I want the sum of these all numbers. Let's see how we can do it. Let's start writing is equal to SUM sum, and inside the parenthesis let us select this range. Now 2 to 21. A2 to 21 is the range I have selected. Let me close the parenthesis and click enter. See, I have got the sum of this range. Now maybe I don't want only this much range. Maybe in future I might add a number here, for example 200. See, it is not getting changed here. In order for this to automatically change, we need to create this in a dynamic way. Or another easy example is that we can just select the entire column as the range. Let's say we selected A to A as the range here and clicked enter. Now we have the sum of whatever value is there in this A column. Let us add one more digit here, 100. As you can see, the sum got changed. This was a very basic example of the sum function. Let us get into a little more complex function with sum property. Now what if I want to take the sum of a range but with certain conditions? That is, if the production number is more than 200, I want the sum of those digits only. So when I take the sum of this range, I don't want 177 to be included in that. Or if there is any other value that is below 200, see, for example 130, I don't want that value to be added. Any value that is more than 200, I want the sum of that. Let us see, is equal to sum, but we want to put a condition also. So let us collide two functions, that is sum function and if function. So it will be sum if function. And inside that, let us declare the range. Here our range is A to A. Now, comma. Now it wants us to declare the criteria. The criteria here is that it needs to be greater than 200. Now, the criteria, we should always write it as a string that is inside the double inverted commas, and let us close the bracket. As you can see in the syntax, whichever syntax keyword that is inside the square bracket is optional, so you need not have to declare it. But if it is not inside the square bracket, for example the range and criteria, those are mandatory fields. Whenever you're using a function, you should compulsorily use these mandatory fields. Let us close the bracket and click enter. Now we have the sum of all the datas inside this range which has value more than 200. Now let's make this 200 as 500 and see the answer. See, now only those values which has values greater than 500 is taken into consideration while summing it up. Let's move to the next function. Now here we had one condition, that is the value should be more than this. Now what if I have more conditions? I can't use SUMIF in that situation. In that situation, I should use SUMIFS, that is multiple if condition collided with some function. Let's write is equal to sum if and an s, that is SUMIFS, bracket open, we have to declare the sum range, that is a to a, comma, we can declare the criteria range 1, that is in which range we have the criteria in. Now in this sheet we have only one range, that is A. In other cases we might have different fields or columns, etc. Let me show you an example of such a sheet. Okay, so in this sheet we have two columns, that is one is production and one is month. Inside the month field we have January, February, March, April, and again repeating January, February, March, April. So we have 4 months inside this range, that is January, February, March and April. Now we have a condition that we need the sum of production values wherein the month is April and the value is greater than 500. So the conditions are the month should be April, that is one condition, and the value should be greater than 500 or 300, let's as an example. Now we have two conditions, right? Let's write in is equal to SUMIFS, and we should take the sum range, the range which we want to take the sum of. So that is A to A, comma, let's tell them the criteria range 1, that is in which field we want to put the criteria on. Let us discuss about the criteria which we had. The first one is the month should be April. In which field should I put that criteria in month field, right? So I'm selecting B to B because that is my criteria range 1, comma, now what is my criteria? Now my criteria is that it should be April. I don't have to put equal to April or anything. I just have to write April as a string, that is inside double inverted commas. Now, if I have more conditions, I can click comma and put criteria range 2. Now, my second criteria is that the production value should be more than 300. So what is my criteria range 2? Column A to A, comma, my criteria was it should be greater than 300. Inverted comma close, bracket close. Let's click enter and see. See, the answer is 2939. That is the sum of the values after two conditions are true. Well, that was a very informative function, right? Now let us look into another complex situation, that is, in a day-to-day basis, we have many data wherein we'll have to filter a lot of contents, right? For example, let's go here and filter out some data. 130, 342, 849. So the data which we have right now in our hand is given like this. Now, if I want the sum of only these data, and if I go and type in is equal to sum of A to A, or let's say even the range, if I select like this, I'll get a huge number which is wrong. The reason why it is wrong is that it is, regardless of whatever you have filtered out here, it is still taking the sum of every digit that is between A5 and A14. So we need to put a function that will find the sum of only the data that is present in the filtered column. Let's find out how we can do it. For that, we need to use a function called SUBTOTAL is equal to SUBTOTAL. Now, SUBTOTAL is not something that we can use just with some function. We can use SUBTOTAL with a lot of other functions. So let's start opening the bracket, and here we have suggestions asking for what we need to find. Do we have to find average? Do we have to find count, count A, max, all these we'll get into later in this video. Now we need to find the sum. For sum, we'll write the number 9, or you can select sum by double clicking here. See, it has automatically selected the number 9. Now, comma, it is asking for the reference 1, that is the range which I have to find the subtotal in. Let's select A, and we can close the bracket and click enter. As you can see, it has given me the subtotal of the data that has been filtered in the sheet. Now, is this dynamic? That is, if I change this filter values, will it change? Let's see. I have selected some more values here and clicked OK, and as you can see, the data changed dynamically. That is, whatever value you have selected here in the filter will get reflected in the sum in this column. Let's select all data here, and we got the value here. This is a very useful function if you are someone who uses Excel on a day-to-day basis. You really need not have to put in a lot of sum function, or you don't have to unfilter each time and find the sum, or copy paste to another sheet and find the sum. No, you can just find the sum or filter data in the same sheet itself.